Tonight, on First at 9 this Wednesday the 13th of August 2025. Early achievement. 72% of projected revenue from vehicle imports already collected, says the Treasury. Officials express confidence in reaching the full target by year end. Human rights concerns. The United States Human Rights Country Report says government measures to protect human rights in Sri Lanka have been minimal and largely ineffective. However, notes that there have not been any enforced disappearances in 2024. Budget priorities. President Anura Disanayake urges authorities to prioritize transport, highways, ports and civil aviation projects in the 2026 budget. Also reviews strategies to boost Sri Lanka's exports to $36 billion by 2030. Ticketing scam. Government to introduce a new ticketing system for foreigners travelling on the Odyssey following scams that have overcharged tourists and disrupted the system.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening, you're joining First at 9, brought to you by Sri Lanka's most trusted news source, Derana. I'm Tarindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. In your top story this evening, Director General of the Department of Fiscal Policy, Kapila Senanayake, informed the Committee on Public Finance that the government has already reached 72% of its projected revenue from vehicle imports. Deputy Treasury Secretary A.K. Senaviratne expressed confidence that the full revenue target from vehicle imports will be met by year end. Do we have an updated count of the total number of vehicles imported into the country so far? Are we on track to meet our revenue target?
Total revenue as at August 5th, 316 billion.
Very close to the target.
So it's about 72% of the estimate.
And that is of a LC value of 1.2 billion.
As of August 6th, letters of credit amounting to $1.278 billion have been opened. From the importation of 172,292 vehicles, the government has collected 321 billion rupees in revenue. To clarify, that 321 billion rupees represents revenue solely from vehicle imports, isn't it? Yes, that's correct. The CIF value of the cleared vehicles is 671.
We would double the revenue. So if 1.2 comes, that means we will have about 600 million revenue, which is about 150% of what
Indeed, based on the current trajectory, we could generate 1 billion rupees in revenue from cleared vehicles by the year's end. Our target is 1.5% of GDP, or approximately 450 billion rupees. Given the pace so far, that target is well within reach.
At the moment, is there a government regulation that no ministries can buy vehicles and all?
There is a 2022 circular which grants permission for the purchase of utility vehicles but not private vehicles. Procurement of private vehicles is permitted solely through operational leases or rental agreements. So, capital expenditure on private vehicles is not allowed?
Private vehicle?
That is correct. Capital purchases of private vehicles are not permitted. It has come to light that certain central bank employees have acquired private vehicles. On what grounds did the Minister of Finance approve those purchases?
Central Bank Act.
Under the Central Bank Act, such matters fall outside our jurisdiction. The central bank operates independently and is not subject to our approvals in these cases. It is as if there were two states in this country. The Sri Lanka Transport Board has initiated a trial for an artificial intelligence-powered monitoring system for SLTB buses. Minister of Transport Bimal Ratnayake says if the pilot project is successful, the monitoring system will be mandated for all buses.
Minister of Transport, Highways, Ports and Civil Aviation Bimal Ratnayake engaged in a tour of inspection at the Kataragama SLTB depot yesterday afternoon to assess its deficiencies. During the visit, representatives from the private sector supplying equipment for the artificial intelligence-powered monitoring system in buses briefed Minister Ratnayaka on its operation. This system automatically records and manages data related to both SLTB and private buses, enhancing monitoring and operational efficiency.
There are 3 main cameras installed. The first camera monitors the behavior of the driver. The second is positioned to observe general activity inside the bus. This could include monitoring the seats or the entrance area. For instance, if a disturbance occurs in front of the driver and he is forced to make a sudden move, such as braking abruptly, the system can track how he responded. It will assess whether he was in a proper state to make a decision at that moment, whether he was asleep and whether he was wearing a seat belt. Essentially, all his movements will be monitored and recorded. This footage will serve as evidence if needed. In such situations, the driver will receive an alarm and the seats can also be set to vibrate. We inspected the system and it doesn't just monitor bus drivers, but it also keeps track of tyre conditions, the amount of fuel in the tank and the number of kilometers run and even the driver's salary. All of this information is recorded. With this AI system, we can improve the management of the depots at minimal cost. As an initial step, we plan to install 40 of these monitoring systems in 40 buses, covering both SLTB and private buses. Depending on how successful that is, we intend to make this system mandatory for SLTB buses first. And I believe that eventually this could be introduced to all buses, even school vans.
හොඳම ෆෝන් එකක් ගන්න. ළඟම බාන්ස් එකට යන්න.
Foreign travellers hoping to embark on the picturesque Odyssey railway journey were disappointed yesterday due to an oversight from travel agencies, leaving them unable to enjoy their reserved seats. Deputy Minister of Transport Dr. Prasanna Gunasena says a permanent solution to the issue will be provided by the end of the month. Meanwhile, railway controllers objected to the government's decision to appoint a new general manager of railways. Following Cabinet approval, Director General of the Department of Information Technology Management at the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Ravindra Padmapriya was appointed the General Manager of Railways, replacing Dhammika Jayasundara. New General Manager of Railways, Ravindra Padmapriya, assumed duties today at the Railway Department's headquarters. Deputy Minister of Transport and Highways, Dr. Prasanna Gunasena, was present at the occasion.
We intend to take this department on a journey of rapid development. The department's previous administration did a commendable job, but we expect faster progress. To achieve that, we have implemented this administrative change. We believe the railway department can embark on a journey to be proud of.
However, the Railway Controllers Association claims that the government's decision to remove Dhammika Jayasundara and appoint a new General Manager of Railways was unjust.
Dhammika Jayasundara was an official who rejected theft, fraud and corruption and did not take part in any of those vices. In such a context, we view his removal from the position of General Manager of Railways without following due procedure while citing inefficiency as unjust.
Meanwhile, yesterday, foreign travellers hoping to enjoy the scenic Odyssey railway journey were inconvenienced following the implementation of a new ticket reservation system. Following reports of a scam in which Odyssey tickets were purchased online and sold at higher prices, the Railway Department introduced a new seat reservation system from the 1st of this month. Accordingly, when reserving seats, it is mandatory to enter the applicant's identity card number or, in the case of foreigners, the passport number. However, as travel agencies through which several foreign tourists had reserved their seats had failed to submit the necessary passport numbers, travellers who arrived at the station yesterday in anticipation of a reserved seat were not allowed to travel on reserved carriages but had to purchase new tickets and travel in third-class carriages.
They have sent you exclusion to a booking code only, but we need Sri Lankan railway booking code start with 14.
Some people book tickets through travel agencies and those agencies provide confirmation via email. However, the tickets are often not actually reserved for them. The main issue is that these agencies charge foreigners 2 or 3 times the original ticket price.
Deputy Minister Dr. Prasanna Gunasena said today the issue will be resolved after the 31st of this month.
Due to this scam, some tickets remain outside the official system. A number of tickets are sold on the black market at inflated prices by middlemen. However, the the revenue that the railway should receive from these tickets is covered. If a foreigner boards a train without a valid ticket after reserving a seat, they will still be allowed to travel upon providing proof of identity and subject to a penalty. This decision has been made with consideration for the country's image on the global stage. However, this arrangement will only be in place until August 31st. From September 1st onwards, passengers must enter their passport number when booking tickets. This measure will prevent middlemen and agents from interfering with ticket sales or charging unreasonable prices.
President Anura Disanayake calls for transport, highways, ports and civil aviation projects to be prioritised in the 2026 budget. He also reviewed strategies to boost Sri Lanka's exports to $36 billion by 2030, focusing on key sectors and infrastructure.
President Anura Disanayake directed officials to prioritise transport, highways, ports and civil aviation projects that can boost the country's economy in the 2026 budget. He instructed that rural bus operations, though not profitable, should provide maximum service to the public with government support where needed. The President reviewed budget allocations and usage for ports, highways, expressways and rural roads while inquiring about future development plans. President Disanayake also reviewed strategies to achieve the government's target of increasing Sri Lanka's export revenue to $36 billion by 2030. Discussions highlighted gems, jewellery, pharmaceuticals, poultry, tea, spices, customs efficiency and the export hub concept to strengthen exports. Trincomalee port development, export-related investments, raw material supply for electronics and new tariff agreements were also addressed.
The United States has expressed concern over human rights conditions in Sri Lanka, citing ongoing issues such as restrictions on press freedom, weak labour protections and a lack of accountability for past atrocities. According to the US State Department's 2024 country report on human rights practices, the year followed the country's presidential and parliamentary elections, which had raised expectations for reforms. While the government took some measures, the report notes that human rights groups considered them minimal and largely ineffective. The report highlights several deaths in police custody and targeted shootings. Police recorded 103 targeted shootings in 2024, down from 120 in 2023. Torture and mistreatment by police remain widespread, with an increase in complaints but very few prosecutions. The United States report observes that there were no enforced disappearances in 2024, by or on behalf of government authorities. However, it criticizes the government for slow progress in investigating thousands of unresolved cases from the Civil War and the 1988-89 insurrection. The report notes that investigations into mass graves remain incomplete. The report also criticizes the Office on Missing Persons for prioritizing financial assistance over truth, justice and reconciliation programs. According to the report, journalists continue to face harassment, surveillance, threats and interference. Laws such as the ICCPR Act and the newly enacted Online Safety Act have reportedly been used to suppress dissent. Authorities have also selectively applied hate speech laws, often tolerating anti-Muslim rhetoric more than other forms of hate speech. Regarding labour rights and worker protections, the report notes that while labour laws allow for unionization and collective bargaining, enforcement is uneven. Recent strikes have highlighted salary disparities in several sectors. Despite a de facto moratorium, the Prevention of Terrorism Act continues to be applied, resulting in prolonged pre-trial detentions. Delays in the legal system, inability to post bail and corruption often extend detentions, sometimes exceeding the potential sentence for the alleged crime. The report also highlights that child marriage remains legal under the Muslim Marriage Act for underage girls. The report also notes cases of involuntary sterilization among marginalized communities. Refugees and asylum seekers face an uncertain future as the UNHCR plans to close its Sri Lanka office in 2025. Acting Deputy Director of the Angoda National Institute of Psychiatry, Dr. Hemantha Ranasinghe, was arrested this morning at his residence by the Bribery Commission. He is accused of accepting a 3 million rupee bribe while serving as Deputy Director of Prison Health Services in 2024. Investigators say he demanded 1.5 million rupees to keep a powerful drug trafficker named Army Asanka at Walikada Prison Hospital instead of returning him to Busa Prison, and ultimately received double that amount via a bank transfer arranged by the inmate. When the suspect was produced before the Colombo Additional Magistrates Court, the Bribery Commission requested that he be remanded. The The suspect's lawyer applied for bail, but the court ordered Dr. Rana Singh to be remanded until August 19th, pending further investigation. Welcome back. Senior Deputy Inspector General of Police Priyantha Veerasurya was appointed Sri Lanka's 37th Inspector General of Police. President Anura Dissanayake made the appointment following approval of the Constitutional Council. The letter of appointment was handed over to the new Inspector General of Police this afternoon by Secretary to the President Dr. Nandika Sanathkumar Nayaka. He is the first Inspector General of Police to have progressed through all three key ranks: Police Constable, Deputy Superintendent of Police and Assistant Superintendent of Police, before assuming the top position. Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa expresses concern that the JVP, which once claimed to stand for workers, have now seemingly forgotten the employees of factories such as Sevanagala and Palwatta. During his visit to Palwatta, the opposition leader highlighted that the government owes millions of rupees in VAT relief to farmers and EPF payments to the factory's employees.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa visited the Sevanagala sugar factory today to assess the challenges faced by local sugarcane farmers. Following the visit, a meeting was convened at the Sevanagala Central College auditorium where farmers voiced their grievances to the opposition leader, emphasizing that despite repeated visits by government officials, several critical problems remain unsolved.
The JVP, once known for mobilizing protest over public hardships, now maintains a noticeable silence. For the first time in the history of this company, an unprecedented situation has arisen. They are currently unable to sell their products. This year's sugarcane cultivation stands at just 300,000 tons, leaving only 140,000 projected for the following year. Such a decline directly impacts sugar production, leading to substantial losses for the factory. I confronted the current subject minister regarding these ongoing challenges, only to be met with a denial that any problems exist at present. While the state sector's salary increase once captured public attention, the employees at this factory have yet to benefit from that raise. Moreover, timely provision of essential supplies such as fuel, fertilizers and advance funds has been severely lacking. What is the situation in Sevanagala at the moment? The government owes 20.5 million rupees to local farmers in Sevanagala alongside an outstanding 15 million rupees in EPF contributions. Suppliers meanwhile await 100 million rupees from government disbursements. Additionally, a VAT relief of 400 million rupees is promised for these farmers. Clearly, the present administration shows little regard for these urgent public concerns. Turning to Palwatta Dairy, employees have not received 324 million rupees in EPF payments for 9 months. The government is also liable for a 1.5 billion rupee loan from the Bank of Ceylon, recently augmented by an additional 300 million rupee loan. State officials must further allocate 300 million rupees to farmers and 400 million rupees to suppliers. Amidst this, the Samik Jana Balawegaya stands alone as the only political party advocating earnestly for the rights and welfare of the ordinary citizens.
Leader of the Sarva Jana Balaya, MP Dilith Jayavira, says his party will not support the no-confidence motion brought by the Samik Jana Balawegaya against Deputy Defence Minister Aruna Jayasekara. Speaking further on the matter, Jayavira noted that the motion does not target the Deputy Minister in his current political role, but rather his past position as the Eastern Commander of the Sri Lanka Army. With that, here's a look at more thoughts shared in the political arena today.
Recent revelations indicate that personnel who worked under Major General Aruna Jayasekara during his tenure as Eastern Province Security Forces Commander conceals critical evidences related to Easter attacks. This situation raises serious concern about his current appointment, especially amid ongoing investigations. As a result, the opposition decided to bring forward a no-confidence motion against him. There is no necessity to submit a no-confidence motion against the Deputy Defence Minister as the investigations fall outside his department's jurisdiction. Neither the President nor other ministers are interfering in the ongoing investigations, and we assure the public of their impartiality. Leaders of all opposition parties have deliberated on the matter, and we will unequivocally support the no-confidence motion against the Deputy Defence Minister. The individual in question stands accused of failing to uphold his responsibilities during his tenure as Security Forces Commander in the Eastern Province. However, it is important to remind the government that several others similarly accused of such failures currently occupy ministerial positions. True justice for the victims of the Easter Sunday attacks cannot be achieved by targeting a single individual. Parliament must also take action against those who had prior access to intelligence on the attacks but deliberately withheld that information. The no confidence motion against the Deputy Defence Minister pertains to events that took place years ago during his time as Security Forces Commander in the Eastern Province. We no longer believe that a single mastermind is behind the Easter Sunday tragedy. Although he now serves in a civilian political role, the motion references his action as a senior military officer. This in effect appears to be an attempt to tarnish the reputation of a decorated war hero, a concern that has frequently surfaced in parliamentary debates. At a time when national security is under renewed threat, he has spoken confidently on public safety, built-in trust among citizens who hope for reform in the sector. It is important that a no-confidence motion be brought forward against him. However, it should not be based on action taken during his tenure as a war hero.
Chairman of the Sri Lanka Bureau of Foreign Employment, Kosala Wickramasinghe, says Sri Lanka is expected to receive $7 billion in remittances by the end of 2025. He added that the Bureau has implemented several measures to facilitate the deployment of qualified, skilled workers abroad, with an estimated 300,000 Sri Lankans expected to seek overseas employment this year. The government is facilitating employment opportunities in Japan, South Korea and Israel under memorandums of understanding signed with these countries. Welcome back. Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe says that had the initially proposed 44% US tariff remained in place, Sri Lanka would have required a significantly revised economic outlook, potentially including adjustments to its IMF program. He described the current 20% tariff as much more comfortable in comparison. Addressing the Invest in Sri Lanka Investor Forum held in Singapore yesterday, Dr. Veerasinghe emphasises that the reduced tariff rate strengthens Sri Lanka's export competitiveness, particularly when measured against regional economies such as India and China.
The Colombo Stock Exchange, in collaboration with the Securities and Exchange Commission of Sri Lanka and the stockbroking industry, hosted the Invest Sri Lanka Investor Forum in Singapore yesterday. The forum saw the participation of Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe and Deputy Minister of Economic Development Professor Anil Jayantha.
For Sri Lanka, it's managed to negotiate down the tariff rate from 44 to 30 to 20%, but still there are uncertainties. What is the main risk to growth in your view?
It's an impact of an external factor. From time to time, many external issues would come. We need to deal with these risks. We have the potential of managing. I don't say that is a risk, but rather the key driving point is investment. Our government, the policy, and how best we are trying to navigate the country, still investors may have a little bit suspicions. That could be another risk.
What is your assessment of the growth risk?
Whenever we have this external shock, like how prepared the country is to face that shock is important one. First part, on the internal policy side, we have monetary policy buffers, the fiscal buffers and the reserve buffers for us to use if there's any short-term impact on this system. But at the beginning, when 44% was imposed, obviously we were very much concerned. When the discussion with the IMF also, at that time they considered if 44% was imposed, we needed to have a different outlook and also different IMF program. And this level, I think we are much more comfortable. But right now, it's like the status quo. What we earlier predicted, we are comparative basis, we are at the same level and even sometimes better than some of our competitors. My assessment is that trade diversion could be beneficial for Sri Lanka in the current context. If this tariff regime differentiation persists for a longer period, we are here to benefit, and also that to create opportunities for our exporters, have much more market access to certain markets. That's why I think this is an opportunity for us.
Going into next year, how confident are you that the growth momentum can be kept up, and how much further does monetary policy need to help support that?
Right now, expectation is that inflation will come back to our target level of 5% within next year, and growth will steadily current close to 5% growth compared to IMF less than 3%. That momentum will continue. So if that is going to be the outcome, I don't think we have right balanced monetary policy. But what's good about it, is that if there's going to be any impact, we have a space in the monetary policy for us to support the local economy.
Some of the projects, including the revival recently of the LNG terminal tender that was scrapped by the previous government. What were some of the considerations for the government? Why is now a right time?
The biggest issue as of now is the capabilities of the government to channel it to the demand side. There are many in the pipeline. We are considering, apart from the other factors, one key factor is the future cost. The energy forecasts, especially Global Energy Forum, has forecasted that the renewable energy cost would gradually go down to significant amount, whereas the capacity for renewable energy is increasing. So therefore, while we are assessing, we need to take into account these two factors.
Continuing the mixed sentiment seen over the past few days, the Colombo Bourse experienced a volatile trading session with the index fluctuating throughout the day. Although profit-taking was observed at midday, the index recovered towards the end of the session. The benchmark ASPI closed marginally higher at 19,976, making a 3-point gain. Increased participation from retail investors was also noted. Today's turnover amounted to 4.5 billion, a 33% decrease from the monthly average of around 6.6 billion. Transport sector dominated turnover, contributing 18%, followed by the diversified financials and banking sectors with a combined contribution of 31%. Foreign investors turned net buyers with a net inflow of 498.3 million rupees. That's all for tonight from First at 9. Thank you for joining. Have a great night.